Hello, welcome back to Cymatic TV. We're going to be going into an energy update here because there's been quite a few sun flares going off, X flares and M flares over the past few days, and it's been quite amazing. Very similar to the energy that was sent out by the sun in the direction of 3i Atlas. And I think this has a lot to do with those planetary alignments that we saw happen on the 3rd and the 4th. And as I said in the video, when I did into that alignments of the 3i Atlas and also the planets and so forth, how that information will become realizable, relative to us within our mind, as it were, would be sort of like from the weekend onwards. And it seems to be happening that way. There seems to be a download. And I think the sun, because we live in a conscious system, you may not understand the consciousness of a sun because it is a sun. It is a star. We're human beings. So it looks at life in a different way, but it has the same sort of functioning as what us humans have. So it's consciously conveying that information that it's taking in from AI Atlas and all the alignments and having the precision on the message that is coming through. And it's certainly happening for a lot of people, having a download of information, just understanding things. And it's like a stream that sometimes just doesn't stop and can be very overwhelming at times. And if it is overwhelming, just make sure if you really want to get into the detail of it, just at that moment of having that thought, just writing down 2 or 3 words that are power words that will connect you back to that moment. So later on, when you meditate on that moment and you say, I want to understand more about that, you can then see these 3 words which will trigger the memory. So you can watch it in slow motion. So then you can really download the information. The important thing is recognizing that, yes, I'm having a bit of a download of information at the moment. And we all have that from time to time, big and small. I will be doing an extra video on that on the Astroflower. So if you're not subscribed over there, please do go and join us over on the Astroflower. That's where we go into a little bit more into the woo-woo aspect of energy and so forth. But it does really sort of help you out. If you can, then you can sort of play it back and you can really get down to the real detail that you need to understand about the download that you're receiving when we can do that in meditation later on. But the sun seems to have been playing its part at the moment. And it started flaring about sort of 4 or 5 days ago and has continued all the way through. And we've just had another big long duration X flare that stayed in M flare zone until around about midday. So it started around about sort of 10 to 9 UK time, 10 to 9 UK time, and then finished it off about midday UK time. Start coming out at the M flare sort of region. And there's a reason for this because there's a lot going on in that smaller area of the sun in regards to different types of energies that the sun is putting out. So let's just have a quick look. Let's have a first things first. Let's have a look at what's going on in regards to the eruption over the past few days. So let's just bring up the KP index, and you can see here's the long duration M flare, X flare. There's another one here, and there's other M flares at the back there over the last few days. And as I said, this is the same sunspot that was facing AI Atlas, that was firing loads of stuff at AI Atlas. So a lot of it is coming in our direction, but it has been tamed by the sun, and it's very particular the way it's been tamed by the sun. Our actual Earth's magnetic field at the moment, its equivalent of the aura, is coming back down to a much calmer position after the impacts of the other flares over the last few days, where the downloads really started, and now they seem to be getting even more crystal clear. And as it comes crystal clear to us, it's much easier for us to sort of get precise information that comes through from the sun. Okay, there has been sort of like a few earthquakes. Now, I just wanted to clear this quickly up. Here you go, just to quickly sort of say there's the chakra map that is in front of us here. Just so you can see, you have the heart chakra up in the UK. You get the crown chakra up here, because we will be going into that a little bit later on. Crown chakra up at Mount Kailash, solar plexus down in the Australia, third eye and throat chakra up at Mount Fuji. The root chakra is down in Lake Salida, and Mount Shasta in for the sacrum. So let's just have a quick look at the earthquake images that we got at the moment. Here we go there. Let me just bring that up. There we go. So we have had a big one up by the third eye and the throat chakra over the past few days. And as we'll see in a moment from the sun, I think that has to do with that departing coronal hole that was really earth-facing, directly earth-facing during this moment here as well. And when it disconnects to the energy of the earth, that's what creates the earthquake. Solar flares do and can create earthquakes, but it takes 2 days, 4 days to filter through the system before we start getting the earthquakes, if it is earthquake orientated. But mainly the earthquakes are generated by the coronal holes, and we saw that 6.7, if I'm not mistaken, up by the third eye. And this is encouraging that energy that's sort of like with the downloads that we've seen over the past 4 or 5 days, and it's continuing as we go forward. Let's just look at how that impact. Let's just have a look at the sun and seeing what's that's been actually doing. So let's just bring. So this is that coronal hole that I'm talking about. Now it's earth facing here. Just behind it, you've got this sunspot, which is just up here. But also what you may need to pay attention to is these filament energies. Now this sunspot is being sort of squashed between those two sort of elements here, where the coronal hole is earth energy and you've got water pushing up against that fire energy, and it actually goes over the solar flare, goes over the sunspot, as it were, the filament energy, and it's really containing the energy that's coming out of the sunspot, which would be mainly fire energy associated with a bit of air as well. But as it's got that sort of filament energy that comes over, you'll see that there's been some eruptions that come out at the side of the sunspot. So it's not really been directed. It has created a lot more air in the system. We have had direct hits, but each time it flares, it is feeding that filament energy. Now that's emotional energy, that's water energy. So now we've got the earth energy that is squashing the fire energy and also feeding it at the same time, because that's how the sun works. It goes from one to the other. And the filament energy will also create coronal holes energy. So it will create coronal holes when it snaps away. And it's feeding this sunspot. So the coronal hole is feeding the sunspot in order to feed the filament energy, which will ultimately then create more coronal holes. And it's a cycle that's going through the sun. So if we take the earth energy with the fire and the air in the middle, and then followed by the water energy, it's trying to sort of put through an energy that's very concrete at its base, that empowers you and impassions you with the fire and the air and makes you mentally stimulated. And that's all to do with that third eye and that earthquake that we saw up in the Japan region. So that's that coronal hole pushing that fiery energy as well, which is going to be playing into your solar plexus, but also into your third eye. And then it follows on and feeds the water energy. Now that's all to do with almost the emotional side, like the heart chakra in a way. And it's feeding that joy of understanding something, coming from something or understanding something very concrete within your life. And that's what it seems to be. The message seems to be in there. And the tying energy that goes across that coronal or that sun flare is that filament energy. And that's where the emotional sort of side has to be rewarding. You can't have downloads that creates just anxiety for you. It's not going to help the situation. And energy totally understands that at the moment. And it's really helping you to sort of keep a lid on your emotions when you're doing the download or when you're getting the information through, so you can have that clarity of vision and you can understand the concrete evidence or the concrete understanding that's coming through with it having a sort of a lid on your emotions. But once that flare happens and that fire and that moment of realization happens, that's when it feeds the emotional sort of side. And that emotional sort of side from the sun has not actually been released because those filament energies actually stayed where they were. Even after the eruption. Let's go on to see how it affects the Earth, shall we? Or the magnetic or the radio waves of the Earth. So let's go into that. As you can well see, this is just before the flare here, and you can see over this section here, you have the crown chakra up here, which is all about that conscious download that we're talking about as well. So now we're tying in the third eye with the crown chakra, with the earthquake, and now the impact of this solar flare. As we go forward in this sequence here, as the sun erupts, here we go. Here it's just starting to pull in now. Look at that. You've got the crown chakra, which is just in this section around here of the earth, and it really engulfs the whole thing. It's slightly touching on the heart chakra, which is up in this section here, but it will go and touch it even more as time goes on, because that flare took a long time to actually speak its wisdom. But as we go forward through time here, you can see it's still going in the M flare section here and still impacting the earth on the energy. It's now coming into much more into line with the heart chakra as it's leaving the crown chakra. Therefore, the energy starts going down. And it starts, having that little bit, a lid a little bit on the emotions of the situation. And that's when it starts hitting the south and north pole. Look at this, the south pole really does sort of kick into fire, as it were. And the south pole is really charged at the moment, much more than the northern pole. And this is like that vertical energy that goes between the crown and the root of us and ourselves. And what it's doing is once you get that emotional outpouring of understanding, it then brings you back to the pathway of what you should be doing with this information as it comes through. So it's really does sort of play very much towards the polar regions, and the North Pole does start getting involved a lot more, as we can see here. And then unfortunately I'm still waiting for more uploads before we can go even further than that and see what actually happens. I think it's going to be ringing for some time yet, so I think that's helping us to sort of, how do I put the information into my everyday life in regards to what energies are coming through the sun at the moment. Let's just have a look and see what's going on here with the energy as it goes from the corona hole, which is in this section just here, and then you got the sunspot here, and then you got the filament energy that comes through here, but it also goes across the top, and that really gets developed a little bit later on. So as we play it going through here at the moment, here we see there's one of the first eruptions that was in the earlier part of the week. You can then see where it starts getting a bit sort of squashed between the filament energy. That filament energy is really starting to take on some form there after that eruption. And as it does, you can see this other eruption that's happening up north because it's being pushed out and away. So it's not trying to cause too much damage with its fire energy that could come in the direction of the Earth. So as we go further on, now we're getting closer to towards today and yesterday when we had this first eruption. Now we've still got that coronal hole which is just over here. And as we get this first eruption that really is being pushed out to the side at the moment until it starts connecting really to that filament energy, which is now going there just on the left-hand side. So as it erupts, you can see it will be feeding that filament energy. As it erupts now, there you go, you get that energy that goes, rather than going in the direction of the Earth, it's going in the direction of the filament energy. And it's driving that emotional aspect of energy within the message of the sun. It's trying to sort of saying, allow your passions and your enthusiasm and also your insights to start fueling your emotion, your desires to understand more and learn more about life. So it feeds that filament energy. And as it goes back, you can see there's a loop that feeds back to the coronal hole, which is just up in this section here. If I just play it back, it just sort of, we go, there it is there. You can see it there as I play it back and forth. It comes from, the feedback is going back towards the coronal hole and feeding the coronal hole, but with that filament energy that comes across the top. So it's almost like it's an auto loop situation that's going on, and it happens again, not just one time. Here we go again. It starts feeding the filament energy again on this latest eruption, which was the long duration X-flare. There was something else that you may well notice. I don't know if you can quite see, but in this section here, this filament energy is now starting to create tornadoes as well. So that could be a lot of emotions that we're allowing, that are knotted emotions that we're allowing to let go of, and go into the emotions that is driving our passions of doing things. Absolutely phenomenal energies that have been coming through at the moment through the sun. And once you start allowing that to sort of like, drive a certain degree of your reality that is around you, it's much easier for us to actually see clearly what we should be doing at what particular time. And that leaves us that space to download the information that we can then fit and put into place like a jigsaw with our general life around us. This is phenomenal times here at the moment, and we saw that in the weekly readings over on the Astroflower as well on Thursday and Friday, where we do earth and fire on Thursday and air and water on Friday. Where there was a lot of tower moments in all of that. There was a lot of realizations, a changing of belief systems. And I think this is what the energy from the sun is trying to convey to us at the moment. So, engage in your downloads. If it does become a bit overwhelming, don't forget to put down the key words and then just allow it to flow through. Observe it like a film. You can come back to it and go back into the details later on. Just making sure that you're in a good place, that you don't get your emotions overrun by the situation. Okay? So, there you go. Don't forget about the messages from energy over on the Astroflower as well. Absolutely fantastic this week it was. Really formidable. Thanking you very much for subscribing, liking and sharing and all of that malarkey. Very much appreciated. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. I'll see you soon. In the meantime, don't forget, life should be fun, so please do enjoy.